To revisit those Aethersprites, we'll go ahead and these, by the way, anybody who's watching right now, the order that we have them in our screen here is in the order of cost. So least expensive to most expensive. Take it.
All right. I will say, as a note, you're focused on Hawk's support ability. I mean, he could just be boosting by himself. That does still say range 0. Just saying. Barrel rolling lat, boosting lat.
Doesn't it say small base?
I don't say anything.
Oh, each friendly ship. Okay. A little more squirrely.
Just saying. You can find some uses for it. But I digress. Into the Aethersprites. Let's start by some easy ones here. Let's put the Jedi Knight in A. As we talked about in the chassis, it's just really has plenty of abilities. Force and the fine-tuned controls plus calibrated normally. You're gonna like it. It really doesn't need a pilot ability to shine, and for the points, I think it's on par with the rest of the chassis. Barriss Offee, while a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 performs the bullseye, so she can essentially spend her force to modify other people's bullseye things. Not great. I'm putting her in C. One force, situational ability. A little bit of a bump because of patience exists now, so she could still use her fine-tune controls and then her ability, I guess. But not excited to bring her. Sorry, Tommy. We got Luminara up next. I'm also going to put. I'm ranking these. Sorry, no, I'm not softballing any of these guys. Luminara in the C tier. We've seen it do well, but unfortunately, you're only getting that ability off maybe once per round, and if you are using the ability, they're not utilizing fine-tuned controls or the force. I think it has definitely potential. It would ranking if I could put it with Padme, your ranking would go way up. But a singular chassis ability, no, thank you. Next we got CC Teen. I'm also putting down here. We can just move all these up for now. They're about to be up over there anyways. Keep losing them here from some tilt. You just gotta hold them up and lock them while they're in the midair. Anyway, CC Teen. That is the one that lets you change your dial. Now, I'm normally I have strong opinions on dial changing abilities, especially when it's not tied to a specific initiative. You can change Anakin's dial, but we really haven't seen much use out of it. My only explanation with CC10 is that most of the time that defensive modifier of the force is probably better than a support ship. Definitely if you have like multiple Jedi, like 3 or 4 in a list, she could find use. But as every day, every other day, she's down in C tier. Because I mean, I would put her in the dumpster, but I respect the dial changing enough to know. Let's go. I'm just going to keep going in order here. Ahsoka Tano. I'm going to get flack for this one. I'm going to put it in S tier. One of the best abilities on one of the best chassis. Should I continue on? Her ability works while she's stressed. It's crazy. Plo Koon, I guess I have to put into B tier. I'm going to B tier. I5 double reposition on a chassis that gets free mods. I mean, he also has an ability that's support based, but pretty much that alone gets him into B tier. Mace Windu, I'm also putting into B tier. Not as great initiative, but has a lot of force, a lot of extra force with his ability. Can still double reposition. I think he doesn't lose anything, obviously, but a little bit more expensive. Essentially, you're paying his points for that third force, which is good. Can't deny that. But I think that the other pilots that I'm about to get to make more use out of that 3 force. And that's that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Definitely goes into S tier. We've seen huge success with him all throughout second edition. His ability to not only provide himself with a second or third force or focus token by spending force, you can also do it for friendlies up to range 2. Wow. Support Ace. It's exactly where that ship needs to be, which is S tier. Then we got Anakin Skywalker. Oof. And this is actually the one where I really got to think about because I don't think he's S tier anymore. The recent points changes and what his limitations with CLT. And especially since essentially I would say that his Ada version with the tools it can bring is better than his Aethersprite version, which we're really just seeing that he can double reposition. It doesn't really matter what chassis you bring, but I mean, the fact that he was running around in shoe ship builds with Anakin and Obi-Wan only, I had to still give him A. Well, let me give you that rundown for our audio listeners, because I have 9 pilots, so I did want to pick up the pace here. So in S tier, I have Ahsoka Tano, Snips, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. For A tier, I have the generic Jedi Knight and Anakin Skywalker. In B tier, we got Plo Koon and Mace Windu. And in C tier, we got Barriss Offee, Luminara, and CC Team. Any hot
Yes.
arguments? Which one?
Luminara doesn't.
Luminara B, at least.
Yeah, Luminara.
Padme, though.
No,
No.
Luminara with anything, with an arc, with anybody that's getting shot, Luminara can help. And if you're just spending, you're either making somebody else spend a token to get the damage that they were gonna get, or you're mitigating damage for the ship that needs it, whether it's itself or somebody else.
I'm also surprised you put Plo Koon in B tier. I figure Plo Koon, I5, double reposition with 2 force. I mean, that screams A tier, especially at the cost, right? We've seen him be effective.
Yeah, I would do the same. I would put Luminara and Plo 1 up, and Sensor Jammer. That's basically X-Wing 1.0 Sensor Jammer there, and I've got really bad Cobra Kai flashbacks from Sensor Jammer Worlds 2016. Yeah, I would.
All right, I will give you Plo Koon back up into A tier. He has had success, and he is pretty affordable, though not really. If you look at what's the difference between Plo Koon and Obi-Wan right now?
1 force.
4? Well, okay. I'll give you that.
And a better ability. Obi-Wan's ability is also better.
Yeah, so we're looking at
a 4-point difference.
Points. Yeah, man,
But
really.
Also, you always
here's what
take
it comes
Obi
down
over
to.
Plo, but that's why Obi's S tier and Plo's A tier, because you take Plo next if you're doing the aces.
Now, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to put him in the B tier only because he's essentially second Obi-Wan. You would always
So he
bring
should be
Obi-Wan
A tier.
first.
Because Obi's S, right?
I mean,
If Obi was A, then yes, but Obi's S.
all right, I'll make it. All right, we'll put Plo Koon in A. I can't deny I5 double reposition, but Luminar is staying in C. All right.
All right, I'm going to throw one interesting point out. This is reminded by the chat. Not that you have to move her, but Barriss Offee is only 1 more point than the Jedi Knight, and the Jedi Knight's in A tier. Now, granted, 1 more point gets you 1 more initiative and an ability that's not really used that often. Granted, that 1 increased initiative does increase the cost by CLT and 7B equipped to her by a minor, let's see, if you technically...
2.
CLT's 2 points on a Jedi Knight, and it's 3 points on Barriss. If you put 7B on her, it's 16, whereas it's 12 on a Knight. I don't think you really ever see 7B on Barriss, but only a 3-point difference between
Two points.
a 2 point difference between CLT Jedi Knight and CLT Barriss to get one more initiative.
But I think if you are looking for budget Jedi, those minuscule points end up making a big difference with what you can bring with it.
Sure.
But
And,
the
and
initiative-
it's very rare that you see it matter to go from 3 to 4.
I mean, it's really. I think I agree with Dion here is that if you have if you have 4 Jedi Knights, I'm not going to put Barriss as the 5th one though, because I don't want an I4 flying around with my I3s. I'm ranking her more on her ability because it's conflicted. That you essentially are paying more points just for that one more initiative. Like I see what you're saying points wise, but it's just harder to try to use her ability and to find 2 controls and be defensive at the same time. Like I don't know. I would rather spam Jedi Knights than trying to deal with Barriss.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I said, not a hard argument, just an interesting point that like Barriss isn't that far off from the Knight points wise.
No, and maybe that might be a credit to the Knights. Probably should go down a tier, but
I will say though, out of all the ships, this is the hardest one, which is why we're spending the most amount of time on it, because there is so many pilots and a lot of diversity within those pilots. So that's, I mean, it is definitely the one where we're gonna have the most amount of arguments, which is that's the fun in it.
I think that with so much choice and options for the Aethersprite, it really does come down to your team. Are you all 3s? Are you just all Jedi with having bullseye abilities? Like if everyone has a bullseye ability, maybe Barriss is the right call. So it really, there's a reason why it's an A-tier chassis, man. There's just a lot of things you can do with it. It fills a lot of roles.